Clients ask me what they need to do to prepare for mediation. And the main thing I tell them is that you need to make sure that that day of mediation that you're fully rested, that you've had a good breakfast if you can eat that day, and that you're free of distractions that day. What makes mediation or can make mediation a little bit more difficult is if you're trying to work or you're distracted and you can't focus on what we need to be doing there that day to get this accomplished. But also leading up to that, it's important to meet with your attorney to outline the issues in your case, especially if offers have been made back and forth. That way you know how far apart you are on resolving the case. It's also important to make sure that you have knowledge of the financial accounts, of the financial information, the income of the parties. What kind of a parenting plan do you want for your children? That you've talked to your attorney about that, and to make sure that you have a game plan going into mediation on what would look like a good resolution to you. And it's also important to know, hey, this might not be what I want, but this could be something that I could resolve at mediation or that I could settle for. So it's important to know what you're wanting and what your boundaries are. So how to emotionally prepare for mediation, it's a process that you've probably never been through before. So it's important, if you're working with a therapist or a psychologist, that you talk to them about that so that you are prepared for that process. But the main thing to remember is to keep an open mind. And it's also important to remember that, hey, if I do resolve this case at mediation, it will probably be an agreement I can live with, but it may not be necessarily what I like. So you have to have a very open mind going into mediation. And it's also important to remember, if you need to take a break, step outside, get some fresh air, make sure that you voice that concern. So documents for mediation, your attorney's going to have most of your documents, or should have them, unless they've asked you to bring something you've not previously provided. Prior to the mediation, you should get the mediator's agreement that sets forth how the mediation works, the mediator's terms. You'll need to be prepared to sign that agreement when you get to mediation. So you've probably at that point already supplied your attorney with a lot of documents, but there may be some additional documents your attorney needs you to bring to mediation. So make sure you make a list. You can handwrite a list. You can put like a reminder in your phone. You can make notes in your phone of what you need to bring, and just make sure you have copies of that available. It's also helpful if you have a lot of your copies or your documents stored electronically. Bring your computer or your laptop with you if you have it. That way you will have access to those documents as well if they're needed. So I always tell people, before you go to mediation, the mediator's not on anyone's side. They don't get to make a decision. The only thing they get to do is report to the court whether or not you reached an agreement. So there will be times throughout the mediation that you may think the mediator's leaning hard on you, or you may even think that they're supporting your soon-to-be former spouse, but that's not the case. Their job is sometimes hard. It's sometimes to push on you a little bit to get that mediation resolved if you can. So please go into the mediation with a very open mind. So mediation is usually scheduled either in half days or in full days. So if your mediation is scheduled for a full day, you're going to get to the mediator's office usually, unless there's another location that's been agreed upon for the mediation, and you and your attorney are going to be in a room, and your spouse and their attorney are going to be in a room, and that mediator is going to go back and forth between the two rooms. And a lot of times that's just based on the mediator's style and the mediator's preference. They may start with one side versus the other. It doesn't mean they're taking sides. It just means how they think the mediation is going to be most effective. So that's important to keep in mind. It's also important to keep in mind that the mediator may come up with ideas or suggestions or the way to structure a settlement that you or your attorney haven't thought of. So it's important to be open-minded to other ideas and other suggestions. When you're getting ready for mediation, it's important to be able to talk to your attorney, to meet with your attorney, to know how that process is going to work. If you're already started in the process, or you're thinking about filing a divorce and you think you might get to the stages of mediation, please feel free to give us a call at Mandy Hancock Law, and we will walk you through how that process works. Thank you.